Good morning. Today we're going to learn about freeze frame options and how we're going to use freeze frame to enhance a particular scene. So if a scene needs to just kind of stop for a moment, whether it's the end of a scene, like I said before, it's the end of the 80s sitcom where somebody's jumping in the air, and that's one way. But today we're going to do a more modern take on it. So it's a break in this bank robbery scene. We need to establish who the characters are. We begin with a scene where the characters are running. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is the introduction. We don't know who these characters are, and maybe we'll kind of get to that. But for the sake of time, what we can do is we can take a break, we can pause just for a brief moment, and we can go ahead and introduce these characters using some freeze frame. Okay, so I'm going to back up here. I'm going to find the place that I want to use the freeze frame. Right there. So it's going to be a place where I have both of them in the scene. I'm going to go ahead and freeze frame here. Now there's two ways I can do this. The first way, I can go here and I can take a picture. Let me zoom in for you here. So if I go in here into this camera mode here, what this is going to do is it's going to export the frame that's in your program monitor. Your program monitor is the monitor that's hooked up to your timeline. So if I click on this, I'm actually able to, let me zoom back, I'm able to choose what kind of picture that I want to take, and then I'm able to name that picture, and then I'm able to browse to the place that I want the picture to be saved. Now this is a good one. I can import it right into the project when I'm done. The only reason I don't prefer this method is simply because anytime that you do one of these pictures here, you're compressing the image and you're actually turning it into a picture and you're changing the image slightly. So there is a possibility that you will import it or you'll save it as a JPEG, even a TIFF file which is uncompressed, bring it in, and there will be a noticeable difference between the actual video and the point when it changes to a picture. So I do want you to know how to do this part, just in case the ACA test does ask you about exporting out to a picture, even for a freeze frame, but that's not the way I want you to do it. Okay. The best way to do it, to keep the quality perfect, is we're going to be using this tool here. Hopefully you know this tool. This is the razor tool. And the razor tool is a tool that just basically slices, or we call it, film term, we splice it. And so we use razor blades back when we used to cut film. So my CTI is in the current position, the position that it should be at. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to go ahead and use the razor blade tool, and I'm going to cut this position here. It's exactly where I want it to be, and you can see I have a break in the video and the audio. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my move or selection tool, or I can click V on my keyboard. I'm just going to slide this apart. So right now, as I move over, okay, it's black. And this is going to be the point where I want it to actually have the freeze frame right here. Okay, now this part you're going to have to watch carefully. So I'm going to be cutting again, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my CTI back to that position that I want it to be at. So it's black there, move back one right there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag across. So first I cut, then I moved it to the position where I want this area here to be blank. So this is the area where my freeze frame is going to be. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag this across. So what I've essentially done so far is I'm going to create the space where I want my freeze frame to be. So I'm going to go ahead and cut one more time, just like that. And now I have the place where I have kind of a looping area. But you're going to see in a second, I'm actually going to convert this into a freeze frame. So I'm going to get my selection tool again. I'm going to go ahead and click on this middle part. And this middle part I'm going to want to be one frame. And how do I do that? I right click on this, making sure I have this selected, the video selected here. Right click on it. And I'm going to go ahead and go to frame hold options. You can see that right there, frame hold options. And when I click on frame hold options, I can actually choose a number of places here to choose where I want my freeze frame to be. So I can hold on source timecode, sequence timecode, in point, out point, or playhead. So depending on where my playhead is going to be or my CTI, I can do my end point, which is the very beginning of this clip, or if I set my own endpoint, my out point, if I set my own, or if I don't set my own, it's going to be the end of this clip here, which will be right here. So actually what I want is I want my endpoint. And so because I have it on my endpoint, it's going to be the very beginning of this clip that I have selected here. I'm going to push OK, and you're now going to see that I'm now going to have a hold. Perfect. What I'm going to go and do now is I'm going to take this audio out because of the skipping issue that we have. So I'm going to right click on the audio here. I'm going to unlink. And now I have these two are separate. I'm going to click on this here and I'm going to clear it or hit delete on my keyboard. And that should work. Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add a title onto these two characters here. Again, we're introducing them. So I'm going to go ahead and Command T on my keyboard. It's going to bring up a default steel title. And I'm going to go ahead and call it title 1, or I can go ahead and call it introduction, intro, and then characters. Okay, push OK. All right, so I have my CTI on the position where my titles are going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on the screen here. And let's go ahead and just call these two characters. Let's go ahead and name them. So I'm going to call this Mr. Yellow. And then I'm going to call this other guy. Actually, let me go ahead and change this first before I change it. I'm going to go ahead and make it a much bolder font, something a little bit more powerful than that. So I'm going to choose something like a sans serif font. Sans serif is a font with no little feet on it. It's without feet, so it's sans feet. So I'm going to go ahead and choose something like, definitely not Comic Sans. We're going to just choose this one here. This one seems to be okay. Let's make it a little smaller. And there we go. Probably some bold actually would work better. There we go. And if I want to, I can go ahead and I can get my type tool and I can click over here, or what I can also do is I can hold Alt on my keyboard, which is a copy button, and I can bring it across just like that, and I can go ahead now and change that. So I have the exact same font, the exact same size of everything that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and call this guy Mr. Let's see here, let's go ahead and do Mr. Purple. There we go. So Mr. Yellow and Mr. Purple, and that's it. So I'm going to go ahead now and exit out. If I go here to my project bin, I have my intro characters, bring that over, resize that. Let's see how this works. There we go. And the last thing is we have another character that's coming in. If we want to go ahead and introduce this character as well, we can go ahead and maybe have him right there. And we can do the same thing. Might want to put the character's name here. It's kind of completely up to you where you want to put it, but I'm going to have you guys do that for me. Once you're finished, what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and save it as a .mp4, so that's the H.264 file, and make sure you upload it to Schoology. And you're going to upload this entire scene here with not only this, introducing these two characters with the freeze frame, but you're also going to introduce this character somewhere in here with the freeze frame as well. And it can be anywhere. Okay, good luck.